Hi, this is Rudy Jones. Welcome to That Was the Week That Was in South Carolina College Baseball for March 30th through April the 5th. I'm recording this on Sunday, April 5th, which is Easter Sunday. If you're a Christian, I hope you had a wonderful day. I hope you got a chance to go to church and worship the risen Savior. I know a lot of you have ham on Easter Sunday. I did. I had country ham at the Waffle House, and it was real good. Let's get into what was going on in baseball. We'll look back at last week. Some weekly honors that I give at PalmettoStateBaseball.com, and next week standings and things like that. We'll see what's going on. Let's talk about some midweek games. On Tuesday, Coastal Carolina and Citadel had a dandy game down in Charleston at the Joe. Double no-hitter into the sixth inning. The Chanticleers wind up scoring 2 runs in the top of the ninth to come from behind and win that game 3-2. It was another frustrating loss for the Bulldogs. They played a lot of really good teams from Power 4 conferences close, but they haven't had a whole lot to show for it. Just another one they said we could have, should have won that one. Over in Rock Hill, College of Charleston. Sometimes I can't read my own abbreviations. College of Charleston got a run rule win over Winthrop on Tuesday. One of those games when you look at the records and say, well, this team A should win, but they did not. The Cougars have been struggling this year, particularly of late. They well under 500, but they got this win. Winthrop had been playing really well, and they got beat in run rule fashion. Down in Columbia, South Carolina had a game against Wofford. The Gamecocks had one of their better offensive outings of the season. They run ruled the Terriers, and they had a couple of 3-run homers, including one from Tyler Bach, who started his career at Wofford before transferring to Carolina. Alex Valentine got the start for the Gamecocks in that game. He went on one inning. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. Up in Cullowhee, Presbyterian got a nice win over Western Carolina. Again, one of those games you look at the record and say it's not going to turn out the way it did, but it did. Nice win for the Blue Hose. On Wednesday, Clemson went up to Charlotte and played Wake Forest at Truist Field. Tigers had some more of the same issues that have bothered them much of the season, particularly the last few weeks, and they got run ruled 15-4. Defensive miscues, not enough good offense, some pitching problems, and it just kind of all steamrolled into a bad night for the Tigers up there. As I mentioned, with today being Easter, lots of teams move their schedules up by a day to avoid playing on this date, and I'm going to look at some of the things that went on over this the past 3 days as far as just some highs and lows for some of the teams. Down in Columbia, South Carolina and Texas played a 3-game series. Of course, Texas came into the series number 2 in the country. Longhorns lost the first game. Carolina won it going away. Nice lopsided win. And as I mentioned before, Alex Valentine started against Wofford on Tuesday, and he came back and started against the Longhorns on Thursday. When do you remember a pitcher starting back-to-back games that weren't, several days apart, up to a week apart? But Valentine did, and he pitched well against the Longhorns. He allowed a run, struck out 5 3 2/3 innings, and set the tone, and Gamecocks got some key hits in beating the Longhorns. But Texas came back to win the last 2 games. Pitching pretty much shut down the Gamecocks in both games. Carolina's pitching was not quite up to it. There were some defensive lapses that hurt, particularly on Saturday when the Gamecocks got down early, and the USC lineup was just not up to matching up with the Texas pitching they got. Still, I think Carolina fans feel better about where their team is right now than they did when before Paul Maneri left. The Gamecocks seemed more into the game, I guess, if for lack of a better word. Even though they didn't get the hits they needed, they seemed to play a better brand of baseball overall than they did before that. Down in Conway, Coastal Carolina stretched its winning streak to 10 games with a win over South Alabama in Thursday's opener. Then they got run ruled in Friday's game. It was a first time that the Chanticleers had lost a conference game or a game against a conference opponent in almost a calendar year. They had won 32 straight games against Sun Belt Conference competition, going back to last year's Sun Belt Conference tournament and the regular season schedule. Then on Saturday, the Chanticleers fell behind, had to rally. They got a little bit of help from some mistakes by South Alabama late, and Coastal wound up winning the series rubber game in a walk-off victory. Nice win for them on that. Clemson played at Stanford. They won the first game, lost the second game, won the third one. But still, it was a good win for the Tigers. They needed to get that. If they'd have lost 2 out of 3 to Stanford, they'd have been a couple of games behind them in the standings, and it would have been tough for them to catch up as far as that. And Clemson wants to go far beyond Stanford in the standings. The Tigers right now are tied for 14th place with the Cardinal in the ACC through through 4 weeks of conference play. Charleston Southern got a nice series sweep over Presbyterian, a couple of slugfests in that game. In the it was Friday's game. Excuse me. The Buccaneers went into the bottom of the ninth, losing 12-5. They wound up scoring 7 runs, including on a grand slam to tie the score to force extra innings. And then in the bottom of the 10th, they walked it off with a bases-loaded walk. Then they had another slugfest on Saturday, which the Buccaneers won again to get the series sweep. Up at Lexington, Virginia, Wofford won the first 2 games of the series at VMI to remain unbeaten in the Southern Conference. On Saturday, they were down 12-10 going to the top of the ninth. Hunter Herndon hit a 2-run homer to tie the game up, force extra innings, but VMI got a walk-off single in the 10th to win that game 13-12 and hand the Terriers their first conference loss. Citadel had a non-conference series with Longwood. They had a shot to get a sweep, but they just couldn't put any offense together in the series finale on Saturday, and wound up having to settle going 2-1 for the series. Michael Gibson and Will Holmes had some good pitching for the Bulldogs. Lane Tobin was effective at the plate. Western Carolina had a non-conference series at Winthrop. The Catamounts come in and win 2 out of 3. A couple of good programs playing here, though, and they just happened to win those 2 out of 3 against the Eagles. College of Charleston got shut out in its first 2 games of a non-conference series at home against High Point. Then the Cougars won the third game on Saturday to snap High Point's 11-game winning streak. Also, earlier in the week, Dylan Johnson, the Cougars catcher, became the school's all-time leader in runners caught stealing with his 43rd runner thrown out. He had been tied with Irvin Roper for that record. North Greenville, Young Harris had a really important Conference Carolina series up in Tigerville. The Crusaders entered the series 2 games behind the Mountain Lions in the Conference Carolina standings. North Greenville wound up scoring the decisive run in its last at-bat, and all 3 games swept the Mountain Lions and moved into first place in the conference with 3 weeks of conference play remaining. They won the opener on Friday on a 8th-inning homer by C.J. Dean, took Game 2, or the first game of a doubleheader, on Saturday with a sacrifice fly in the 9th inning of a scheduled 7-inning game, sac fly by Jan Pospisil. And then in Game 2, they went 11 innings, and my man is going blank. Give me a second to get who the young man hit a walk-off. Joe Cash hit a walk-off pinch hit single to give the Trailblazers the sweep. Both Pospisil and Cash were pinch hitters, and they delivered those wins. With that, North Greenville moved a game ahead of Young Harris, Belmont Abbey, and Francis Marion in the Conference Carolina standings. So that's a tight race there. Elsewhere, Claflin, big news out of Orangeburg. The Panthers snapped a 24-game losing streak with a exciting 8-7 win over USC Beaufort in Game 2 of a Saturday doubleheader. The Sand Sharks won Game 1 of that doubleheader 18-6, and I tuned into the streaming of the second game, saw it was a 1-0 game that USCB was leading in the middle stages, and I decided to keep up with it and see what was going on watching it. The Panthers got 5 runs in the bottom of the 6th to take a 5-1 lead. Beaufort scored 2 runs in the 8th to make it 5-3. Then they scored 4 runs in the top of the 9th to make it 7-5. Things looking tough for the Panthers. But as it turns out, the Claflin got a couple runners on, and Torian Buckley, a pinch hitter, hit a 3-run walk-off homer to left field, and he set off a really wild celebration in Claflin, or in Orangeburg. The folks were really happy there. The play-by-play announcer for Claflin really did a good job of calling it, and he got excited, but he he kept his composure and talked about what a big moment it was for the Panthers. Again, it's been tough. That was the first conference win of the Panthers this year. They're now 1-23 in the Peach Belt Conference and 4-26 overall. But hey, the important thing is they're 1-0 in their most recent game. Good luck to Coach Jalen Bledsoe and the rest of his guys as they continue the season. Elsewhere, Southern Wesleyan got a sweep of Shawan. Now, Shawan has been struggling. They've lost, I think it is 17 straight, maybe 18 straight games. But Southern Wesleyan scored 58 runs, got 57 hits, and that was the first conference road three-game sweep since Southern Wesleyan joined Conference Carolinas for the 2014 season. In addition, they have records going back to 2009 for season-by-season, game-by-game results for a season. I could find no results where Southern Wesleyan swept a three-game conference series from 2009 to 2013 either, when it was in the Southern States Athletic Conference of the NAIA. So that was pretty good stuff for the Warriors, their first ever conference road sweep in Conference Carolinas. Also this week, they've set a school record for stolen bases in a season. They now have 125 steals, and that breaks the old record of 102 steals in 2008. Lander and USC Aiken had a couple of a nice series. The Bearcats bounced back from losing game one to win the final two games. Newberry had a nice 2-1 series win over Lenore Ryan. The Wolves dropped game one, then won a doubleheader on Saturday, including having to sit out a rain lightning delay. In Region 10, things went pretty much to form with the team with the better record having the success in the series. Gaston College in first place in the conference swept USC Sumter in 3 games. Florida State Arlington Tech swept USC Lancaster. And USC Union swept USC Salkehatchie. Oh, one other game series, Anderson got a nice win over a ranked Catawba team to open its series in South Atlantic Conference play, but the Indians came back to win the final 2 games of that series and to take it 2-1. How about some of the standings for teams? In the ACC, Georgia Tech is at 12-3, Florida State is at 9-3, North Carolina is at 11-4, Boston College is at 9-6, while Virginia and Wake Forest are at 8-7. Miami, Pitt, NC State, and Duke. Miami, Pitt, and NC State are 6-8. As I mentioned, Clemson is tied for 14th place at 4-8 in the ACC after Sunday's action. In the Southeastern Conference, Georgia, after that big road sweep over Mississippi State, the Bulldogs entered number 5 in the country. Mississippi State was number 4. Bulldogs win all 3 games. The final game in 10 innings, 8-5. Georgia's at 10-2 in the conference. Texas, after taking care of business at South Carolina, is at 9-3. Alabama's at 8-4. Florida, Mississippi State, Texas A&M are all at 7-5. Florida had a chance to go 8-4. They're up 2-0 in the top of the ninth against Ole Miss and give up 5 runs in the game on Saturday. Auburn, Kentucky, and LSU are at 6-6, as is Vanderbilt. South Carolina, as I mentioned, is at 2-10. They are in last place in the conference. They're a game behind Missouri, who they play this coming week, and they're 2 games back of Tennessee. In the Coastal Athletic Association, College of Charleston, of course, was not in conference play this past week, but they are sitting in 3rd place in the South Division. They're at 5-7, and they are well behind first place Campbell. Campbell's at 14-1. UNC Wilmington is at 8-4 in the conference. Over in the North Division, Monmouth is at 11-4, and Northeastern is at 10-5. One thing to mention, I said Campbell, they've been playing really well. They went up to North Carolina, they had a lead, and the Tar Heels tied it late. Then in the, I can't remember which inning, it's either the 12th or the 14th inning, Rom Kellis, who was a former Florida State Arlington Tech player, got an RBI pinch hit single to give the Tar Heels a win in that game. In the Big South Conference, Winthrop, which of course was out of conference this week against Western Carolina, they're 6-0 in the Big South. High Point is at 7-2. Charleston Southern's at 5-4 after getting that sweep at against PC. USC Upstate is at 6-6 after losing 2 out of 3 against against Radford. Radford is at 4-5, tied with Longwood, and Presbyterian is at 2-7 after that getting swept at Charleston Southern. In the Southern Conference, as I mentioned, Wofford was unbeaten until its Saturday loss to VMI. The Terriers are at 5-1 in the league. They are 2 games ahead of. They're really a half game ahead of East Tennessee State, which is at 6-3. I hate it when they don't play a balanced schedule as far as everybody playing the same week. Mercer's at 4-2. The Citadel and Western Carolina are tied for 4th at 3-3. Elsewhere, and I forgot to do the Sun Belt Conference standings. No, I didn't. Here they are. Coastal Carolina is 11-1 in the Sun Belt. They've got a 4-game lead over Southern Miss, Texas State, and Louisiana Monroe. And then they've got 5 more teams that are 5 games behind them. Arkansas State, South Alabama, James Madison, Troy, and Marshall. Moving on to Division II. In Conference Carolinas, as I mentioned, North Greenville's got the lead now. They are 20-4 in the conference. Sitting at 1 game back are at 19-5 are Francis Marion, Belmont Abbey, and Young Harris. UNC Pembroke is lurking back. They are 4 games back, and that's a lot of time for them to make up, but 9 games left. A lot of things have to go right if Pembroke were to get back into it. Erskine has moved to 14-10 in the conference. They're in 6th place with a 20-20 record. After that sweep of Shawan, Southern Wesleyan is tied with Ferrum at 8-16. They are tied for 11th, I believe, and again 8-16. In the Peach Belt Conference, North Georgia has a 22-2 record in the league to stand in first place there. Second place is at Columbus State at 15-6. Aiken, after losing those 2 of 3 to Landers at 14-6. Landers just slightly behind them at 15-9. USC Beaufort's at 4-20. And and Claflin is at 1 and they say 1-20. I thought they're 1-23. Anyway, the Panthers have only won 1 game. In the South Atlantic Conference, Catawba is at 20-4. That's the team that Anderson beat in their opener on Friday. Wingate is 2 games back at 18-6. Lincoln Memorial's at 17-7. Lenore Ryan, which dropped 2 to Newberry, is at 16-7-1. A half game back is Newberry at 16-8. Coker, which got a nice series win at Emory and Henry's at 8-16. Anderson's at 6-18, which ties them with Tusculum and Emory and Henry. In the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, Benedict lost 2 of 3 at Clark Atlanta. They fell to 14-10 on the season. They are in 5th place, 6 games behind first place Spring Hill. Albany State is 2 games back of Spring Hill. Benedict, by the way, is 16-10 overall. In the Appalachian Athletic Conference, Tennessee Wesleyan is in first place at 18-3. Johnson is at 14-3. Spartanburg Methodist is in 5th place at 11-10. Columbia International is in 8th place at 11-12. In the HBCU Athletic Conference, Voorhees is in 3rd place in the East Division of that conference. They are at 6-7, and they are 6.5 games behind first place Talladega, which is 13-1. In between them is Stillman at 10-3. Stillman is 2.5 games behind Talladega. In Region 10, as I mentioned, the games went pretty much to form over the weekend. The standings now show Gaston College with an 18-3 record with 9 conference games remaining. Florence Darlington Tech is 16-5, and the difference in those 2 games is the fact that Gaston College has won 4 and lost 2 against FD Tech this year. USC Sumter's in 3rd place at 11-9. USC Union is in 4th place at 8-12. A game back of them is USC Lancaster at 7-13. And USC Salkehatchie brings up the rear at 1-19. How about some of the weekly honors that I do at PalmettoStateBaseball.com? I picked North Greenville as the team of the week. They went 4-0 for the past week. They went 3-0 against Young Harris after a midweek win over Lander, an 11-2 win. That was an impressive win over a team as good as Lander is. Some of the other teams I considered were Charleston Southern for the win over PC, the sweep of PC. Coastal for doing as well as it has. FD Tech was 4-0. Francis Marion climbing in the standings to a second-place tie. Southern Wesleyan with that nice win. So things have been going well in some of those teams. Also, USC Union was 5-0 this past week. The Palmetto State team rankings, and as I have in the past 2 weeks, I'll kind of go over the vibes for each team as I do this. Coastal Carolina I kept at number 1 in the rankings for NCAA Division I teams. 3-1 week. Had that loss to South Alabama, but nobody's really challenging them to be the top team in the state right now in that division. They are getting some of their better pitchers back. They've done well without them. But getting some of their better pitchers back soon, so the Chanticleers are going to be a trouble in the future. Winthrop I kept at number 2, even though they lost 2 out of 3 to Western and lost 1 to College of Charleston. I just think they've been playing overall better than Clemson right now. Clemson I kept at number 3. They were 2-2 for the week with that midweek loss to Wake and a loss to Stanford, but sandwiched around those wins, 2 wins over Stanford. Tigers are 21-12. Be interested to see if they can shake off some of the issues they've had as far as just not playing like Clemson teams usually do. I moved South Carolina ahead of Wofford from 5th to 4th. The Terriers, Carolina beat them head-to-head midweek, even though Wofford's got a better record. And I think Carolina also looked like a better team, even though they lost 2 out of 3 to Texas. So I think things are trending up for Carolina, even though it's still going to be real tough for them to finish with a winning record this season. They're 15-18 right now. Charleston Southern I kept at number 6 after they went 3-0 last week. USC Upstate I kept at number 7. They were 2-2 last week. The Citadel 2-2, kept them at 8. College of Charleston went 2-2. I kept them at 9 just because, not a whole lot of difference in the others way they played. And Presbyterian was 1-3 last week, and they stayed in 10th place. Among Division II teams, North Greenville was an easy pick to stay number 1 among those teams. They've won 7 straight games now, including 4-0 last week. Francis Marion, I kept at number 2. Again, they're 30-8 on the season, doing really well. I moved Lander past Aiken from 4th to 3rd by virtue of Lander winning 2 out of 3 against the Pacers head-to-head. Dropped USC Aiken 1 spot to 4th. Newberry kept in 5th place. They were 2-2 last week, 22-16. Erskine, I moved up the spot from 7th to 6th because they had a 3-1 week, even the record at 20-20. They went through a rough stretch earlier in the season where they fell far below 500, but they fought back to do it, and they've got a winning record in the conference. So things are going well for them. Benedict, I dropped a spot from 6th to 7th by virtue of losing those 2 to Clark Atlanta. Clark Atlanta is not a very good team right now, and the Tigers really should have won at least 2 of those games. Anderson, I kept at number 8 after a 1-2 week, even though they beat Catawba. Southern Wesleyan, I kept at number 9, 3-1 week. I just didn't think I could move them past Anderson. Southern Wesleyan beat Anderson a couple of midweek games. Coker, I kept at number 10 after a 3-1 week. That was a nice win for them. I didn't see how I could jump them over Southern Wesleyan after Southern Wesleyan had a good week. USC Beaufort, I kept at 10-25. They were 3-1, but that one loss was a big loss to Claflin, and Claflin stayed at number 12 in the rankings, even though they got a win. Among NAI and National Christian College Athletic Association teams, Spartanburg Methodist won 2 of 3 head-to-head against Columbia International, so I kept the Pioneers ahead of the Rams in the standings, 1-2 among that division. Morris, I kept at number 3. They did not play last week. They're 7-1, but they've been playing well. They've won their last 4 games. Bob Jones, I moved up ahead of Voorhees to number 4. The Bruins won 2 out of 5 last week. They're now 9-20. Voorhees lost the only game it played, got run ruled by Columbia International, so I moved the Tigers down to 5th place among that division. No changes among junior college or U.S. Collegiate Athletic Association teams. Florence Georgia Tech still number 1. USC Sumter still number 2. USC Lancaster still number 3. USC Salkehatchie, I can't count. FD Tech 1, Sumter 2, Union 3, USC Lancaster 4, USC Salkehatchie 5, and Denmark Tech is 6th. Salkehatchie's lost 25 straight games. They need to have something good to happen to them sometime soon. How about the schedule coming up next week? We've got a game on Monday. Clemson is playing at Santa Clara. They complete their road trip out to California with another game up in Northern California. 9 o'clock start. It'll be on ESPN Plus. Also on Monday, a couple of JV-type matchups. Emmanuel JVs play at Southern Wesleyan at 5. And Denmark Tech has its first action in a while. They're playing at Spartanburg Methodist, the Methodist College JVs at 3 o'clock in a doubleheader. On Tuesday, some of the highlights. Presbyterian goes down to Georgia for a 3 o'clock game. Francis Marion and Lander in a nice non-conference matchup. USC Upstate's at Western Carolina. They played in Spartanburg earlier this year, and the Spartans beat them. Charleston Southern heads down I-26 to face the Citadel at 6 o'clock. USC Aiken is at Coker at 6. Wofford's at Georgia State in a game that they should be able to win in non-conference play. And College of Charleston's at South Carolina at 6:30. The teams had some kind of a falling out. Our programs had some kind of falling out around the time that Chad Holbrook left as coach. They hadn't played in a while. Then the Cougars beat them up at Segra Park in Columbia a few years ago. They played an exhibition game down in Charleston in the fall, and now they're back on the schedule. I like it. I like state teams playing each other. I think it's just good for college baseball in the state. There are 3 neutral site games on Tuesday. Mount Olive and Newberry are playing at 3 o'clock at Carolina Bank Field in Florence. At Ford Field in Greenville, Anderson and North Greenville are playing at 6:30. And according to North Greenville's website, that game will be televised on the Palmetto Sports and Entertainment Network, channel 21-2 on broadcast TV in the upstate of South Carolina. You can find it elsewhere in other spots. I hope it will be a statewide broadcast for folks. And in the last game involving a state team on a neutral site, Wake Forest and Coastal Carolina play at Durham Bulls Park at 6:30. Chanticleers show they'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere. On Wednesday, games include USC Unions at Denmark Tech at 1. The Citadels at Winthrop at 6 o'clock. On Thursday, South Carolina begins its SEC series a day earlier than many. They'll be at Missouri to start that series on Thursday at 8 o'clock. Also on Thursday, Morris is at home for a doubleheader against Florida National. And Augusta goes over to USC Aiken. They cross the Savannah River to play their neighboring rival. I would say this, I have to make sure it's not a conference series. Looks like it could be probably a Thursday through Saturday conference series. I apologize for not double checking that before I started talking. Some of the series beginning on Friday. Erskine's at home against Barton. Southern Wesleyan's at home against Belmont Abbey. Spartanburg Methodist is playing Georgia Gwinnett. Georgia Gwinnett's just been an NAI power for the last decade or so, ever since they started the program. Should be another challenge for the Pioneers this week. The Citadel and Wofford crank up a SoCon series at 5:30 Friday at Russell C. King Field in Charlotte. Anderson goes down to Coker in the South Atlantic Conference. USC Upstate is at home against Charleston Southern in another Big South Conference series. Other highlights include North Carolina's at Clemson. The Tar Heels, of course, ranked in the top 10 in the country. Clemson will be trying to gain some ground in the ACC standings with that. College of Charleston has a home series against North Carolina A&T and Coastal Athletic Association. North Greenville is at UNC Pembroke. The Braves are in 5th place in the conference, but they're a dangerous team. Crusaders need to take Trailblazers. Old habits die hard. At least I did not call them the Mountaineers. Winthrop's at Presbyterian in the Big South Conference Series. And Coastal Carolina is out at Arkansas State. Among junior college teams, beginning the series on Saturday, Florence Darlington Tech's at USC Salkehatchie. Gaston College is at home against USC Union. And in the other series, USC Lancaster is at USC Sumter in Riley Park. Now, according to TV listings I've seen, Saturday's Charleston Southern at USC Upstate game is going to be on WYCW, which is channel 62.1 in the Upstate. I like it when college baseball games are on broadcast TV. Yeah, I've got all the main streaming services, but I think having it on broadcast TV just kind of helps to grow the game. But anyway, that's what's been going on this past week, what's going to come on this next coming week. This is all part of my coverage of college baseball at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. As I may have mentioned, I provide updated game scores and things on my X handle, which is Palmetto Base. I do a daily scoreboard. I do a daily video recap of what's been going on with some news items. And I'd really like to hear from you. If anybody's watching this, please just drop me a note, even just respond to the thing and say, I watched it. I hope I'm not doing this just for myself. I really want to promote and expand interest in the game of college baseball in the state. And sometimes I get a little bit on the downside when I don't see a lot of response to what I try to do. You know, I know people watch it and don't say anything, don't write. That's fine. And I hope I am providing information that people want to follow, read about, and learn from. But anyway, for now, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com saying enjoy the remainder of your Easter. And good night. Jesus loves you.